Before we start another amazing video, very quickly, please subscribe. Most people who watch this don't, so I'd be really grateful. It tells YouTube that people like these videos and it makes them easier to see. I don't make any money from YouTube. YouTube's owned by Google. They didn't get rich by giving away money, especially to people like me who have very niche channels. So if you could please subscribe, please ring the bell so you know when content's coming. And if you like a video, then say so. The other thing is, there's a buy me a coffee link. I fund the entire channel out of my own pocket. I don't make money from it. So if you can help out in any way, a couple of quid, a couple of dollars, you can do that as a one-off. You can subscribe, whatever it is. I'm super grateful. On with the video. Thank you very much. Hi everyone, it's Dominic from the MS Guide. In this really cool video, I speak to Michael Weiss from the US. Michael's a similar age to me. He's had MS for quite some time. He's an archivist. He works in the technology sector, and we're going to discuss, amongst other things, how technology has affected MS. And that video is going to start right now. Hi, Michael. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Dominic. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself and maybe just a little bit about your sort of technology involvement as well?
Sure. Well, I guess a little bit about myself. I've lived with MS, as you mentioned. I was diagnosed in 2004, and I've been working in technology for 25 years or so. Always mainly with cable companies, and then that grew into cable internet telephone delivery. And currently working for a managed service provider.
Which MS drug are you on?
I'm on Ocrevus, which I know it's funny. We use the brand names here in the States a little bit more. So been on Ocrevus for about 3 years now.
Yeah, I was diagnosed in 1994, and I try to get across to people sometimes going, I could not pick up my phone and Google this. Google wasn't even a word. I had to go look up about my MS in a hospital library, because I worked in the pharma industry at the time. But I just think the communication ability that has been enabled by, internet cables, whatever, it's just phenomenal. And I'm just interested, if we go forward 10 years, to what extent could you rely on technology when you were diagnosed?
It's interesting. When I was diagnosed, there was certainly much more access to technology than there was in the mid 90s. But it was still, I think there was still limited information out there. It seemed to be a time when, and this is also interesting, not just the technology that we have access to, but I think the technology that the doctors had access to was changing quite a bit, which made the diagnosis, they became a little bit easier to attain, I think. I feel like I was still on the tail end of people who took a long time to get diagnosed. And a lot of that had to do with the awareness and the technology that was available to the medical field.
Okay, so there's the technology side. One thing that always gets me, because I'm active on Twitter, I've started the guide. People say, what do you do? And I say, I run an MS channel. I run a YouTube channel. And they just go, because I think they're expecting some teenager who calls themselves an influencer of some description. But to me, I never would have thought it, but I'm quite comfortable and embracing it. But
it's interesting, and I think that all of that stuff that you had to research in the library, you can still find now. It's, the technology, obviously, it's great because it puts a world of information at our fingertips, but it can also be incredibly damaging, right? Depending, because you can find anything you want on the internet and through technology. And so if you Google, snake bite to cure MS, you'll find stories and you'll find some data. But it doesn't mean that it's valid, right? So I always, whenever I speak to newly diagnosed patients, that's one of the things I always kind of warn against, is that all of this information is at our fingertips, but you have to start your searches in what are proven valid sources of information. Look, from there, if you want to venture out into alternative treatments or complementary treatments, wonderful. but get yourself a foundation of knowledge that's based in science and data and valid information first.
Yeah. How does it improve things for people?
So it's improved things, tenfold. Right. So, and one of the other story I always tell people is, one of the things when I was first diagnosed, even though I had access to all this information and, I had access to the MS Society and the MS Association, and I could really, once I found out that those resources were there, I had the ability to go contact them online. But one of the first pieces of information I saw on MS was shortly after I was diagnosed. I was at my dentist's office just getting my regular cleaning done. And in the waiting room, there was a 1989 medical encyclopedia that he just was amongst the hundreds of books and magazines that were in there. And so when I opened it up and went to multiple sclerosis, under treatment options, it said a course of steroids and a positive attitude. And that was it. And so that was, it always made me think, especially as I grew through the years and learned more about the disease and learned more about the resources that were available to me online through technology. That was, and obviously in 1989, there were no medications available, but that was the information that was available. If you went and looked at the medical encyclopedia, that's what you were faced with. And now, you've got access, whether it's on, Google or Facebook or Twitter. Not only do you have access to find viable and valid information, but you have access to world-renowned neurologists that you can follow on Twitter and interact with on Twitter. And they do put themselves out there, and they're sharing this general information that works for all of us. And I think that's an incredible benefit for us living with MS.
Yeah, Michael, I'm going to put in the links, some of the ones that I know. We've all got our favorites. I've got the Bart's blog. I've got Professor Giovannoni. I've got Aaron Boster, Barry Singer, Brandon Beaber, the American ones. And there's many more. I know there's Nerdy Neuro. I think that's a great thing, but I think people can come to good information these days as easily as they can come to bad. And I think your point at the very beginning of this was, go to the reputable sources first. And if you're newly diagnosed, great, the internet lets you get on, because anybody who says don't Google it, frankly, I think they're mad, because that's the first thing you're going to go home and go, oh God, I've got MS. Google, 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 Google. And then it's like, come to bed, darling, just Googling.
It's made us a lot smarter, but it's also made us a lot dumber in how we come to our conclusions sometimes.
Well, yeah. I always remember my dad saying to me, calculators are fine, but you need to be able to do math to know if the calculator is wrong.
Well, and I guess to the point of the handheld device, right? That's another piece of technology that benefits us living with MS in so many ways, not just on information, but symptom management and being able to jot down notes of, oh, this is new. Next time I talk to my doctor, I want to remind him of this, and I need to remind myself of this because my memory is shot. Or
we've got the symptom management. I know many people are doing apps now. I find them personally quite frustrating, because when a drug, there doesn't seem to be any talking, obviously, between the drug companies, and they all seem to be trying to achieve the same thing all through slightly different routes. And you need somebody like the MS Society or the MS Trust or whatever, because I think they need to lead it, and that'll stick. But it's not going to stick when it's, essentially it's like supporting different teams, isn't it? If you support X baseball team, you're not going to support Y baseball team. So
right. And, I think it was the MS Association of America at one point was working on, and I think they may have developed what they consider to be a really, all-encompassing general symptom management, MS management app. I agree with you. I think the overarching support from an organization like the MS Association or the MS Society, that's the way to go. And I think the way that it'll get something that can help all of us.
I used to work in pharmaceuticals. I think drug companies have an excellent role to play. I think anybody who's not unregulated in any industry could probably go off the rails a little bit. And I don't think pharma's actually setting out, they don't make any money by poisoning people these days. They're under too much scrutiny.
Right.
But I do think that any company is really trying to go to its shareholders, and however nice they are and however hands off they try to be and balanced they try to be, they really rather that you were using their drug and not their competitor's drug.
Right.
Deep down. And I get that. And I'm not unhappy about that. But I just think that can't help but cloud, should we say, how they input into something. Whereas a charity society isn't beholden, hopefully, to anyone.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, they are doing some really valuable work. And I think we've talked about this before. I was involved with, when I was on Copaxone, I was part of the Teva Neuroscience Patient Advocate Program, as well as on their National Speakers Bureau. And understandably, and coming from a world of business, I saw the programs for what they were. They were certainly a wing of the pharmaceuticals marketing department, but they were also doing incredible work out in the field and educating people not only about Copaxone, but about living with MS and being diagnosed with MS and understanding the different options of what kind of medications were available. I mean, when I would speak to patients, even on behalf of Teva Neuroscience, one of the first things I would tell people is that as a patient advocate, the least important thing to me is which medication you're taking. It's that you're doing the work to make sure that you're working with your medical professionals, your medical team, to get on a treatment that works for you.
Exactly. I mean, here you don't pay, but nonetheless, whatever you're on, be on something. Don't be on nothing, because it's proven beyond any reasonable doubt that being on something is better than being on nothing. Apart from, there's always, Michael, I did in my master's, I studied a big data set for something nothing to do with MS, but essentially, whatever your topic, there's 5% of people, it's like that, will do the opposite. If you say do this, they'll give a load of reasons. It's like, I'm not having a vaccine, while they happily drink Diet Coke. And you think, okay, it's
we're seeing all of that in real time right now with COVID, right?
And technology is helping people talk to one another. And I think if you don't want to take a vaccine, you can find many reasons, maybe not valid in my mind, but it's quite easy to find the stuff online to support what you may be thinking about. And if you're one of those 5% who just knee jerks and says no the second it looks like somebody's telling you to do something, you'll find the reasons why not to. And technology makes that easier.
Well, I was just going to say, that's again, one of, there's so many benefits to technology, but then some of the downsides to technology is that it really, it especially over the last, 10 years or so, 10, 15 years, we've all developed, whether we know it or not, we've developed these bubbles that we live in. And these bubbles are bubbles of information that we're looking for. We're no longer looking for information to make ourselves more intelligent. We're looking for information to reinforce what we think is right. And that's a big problem, I think, with technology, whether it's in, MS or COVID or politics or whatever the case may be, because we're just reinforcing this life of bubbling and everything you believe is right. And it's getting reinforced 24 hours a day.
So, Michael, I'm really keen that you came on today, and I'm really grateful. I think we could keep talking about technology. I don't know if you're a geek like me. I suspect you might have a little bit of it in you. But I guess to wind up, if I was going to ask you, what's the biggest single thing that technology is going to do for MS as we look into the future?
Well, I mean, I think, it's interesting. I think that it would be hard for me to say definitively what I think, because I think technology moves so quickly and so drastically. And I would point to going back to just 1994, we had none of this. And now we have all of this. And so to think that, we're just where we're going to be with technology and it's never going to get better, that would be crazy. But to try and predict it, I think would also be a little, a little full of myself. But that being said, I'm going to try and predict it.
I was going to hold you to it. So I can hear you trying to wiggle out, but that's not going to happen. So.
Yeah, no. And I think, there's so many ways I think it's going to continue to help patients. I think one of the most important ways is going to be, symptom acknowledgement, management, and communication with your health team. The ability to soon be able to, whether it's hooking up to a monitor and sending that data through your phone to somebody who's monitoring it at your doctor's office or at a general, central monitoring station, that's going to be able to really add to the real-time symptom treatment, management, and acknowledgement for patients, which then gives the doctors this real-time data that they can work from and work to develop not only disease-modifying therapies, but symptom-modifying therapies, as well as trying to figure out, your this blood type, you've seen these symptoms, you were diagnosed at this age, and now you're seeing these symptoms in real time as we monitor them. We think that this is the best medication for you based on all of that information. And so I think there's a world of improvement that's going to come from technology. That would just be one of the pieces that I would point to.
I'm going to chip in because, like I said, being a nerd, I've got a view on this. I think this is location specific. It's personal. I think we're not using half of the power of it. Can you imagine the day, Michael, when the phone goes and it's your doctor's office and they say, Mr. Weiss, could we chat to you because we think there may be some problems brewing that we'd like to get ahead of, and you've got an app or whatever, so there's the whole, is it spying on me type thing? I guess there's that, but to have the ability to intervene with a patient before you turn up going, I'm having a dreadful relapse. I can't see out of one eye and I've lost sensation in my left foot, and, wouldn't it be great? I think, but speaking to that, the thing that's exciting me the most, because when we were diagnosed, even now, what's going to happen?
Right.
I can tell you what happened. I can't. These days, though, the AI and MRI and the use of companies like Icometrics in Belgium and stuff, but they're not the only one. There's one in California as well. But frankly, they are better at doing this. Not all the doctors like the idea of a machine doing it, but they're being able to predict the outcomes, looking at the brain scans that just human beings don't have the capacity to do this. But the computer that never needs a coffee break and can work 24 hours a day just goes, yeah, in 9 times out of 10, if I see this pattern, it means the following things happen. And, there's that and cerebral spinal fluid as well, but also these things that give markers about what's going to happen, not what has happened. And that's technology. And technology sometimes isn't flashy computers and stuff. It's just diagnostics and things like that. The CSF testing, call it the oligoclonal bands when we get diagnosed. If you have a lumbar puncture, don't do that as often these days.
Yeah.
But also neurofilament light chains, apparently they are something that tells the doctors what's likely to happen.
That's, I couldn't agree more. I mean, imagine, you've been living with this 10 years longer than I have. And imagine the difference in the last 17, 27 years, if you were told ahead of time, this is what the course of your MS is going to look like. Therefore, we think this is the treatment option that we should go with. Or we've seen that people with your precursors to MS react well to this medication. And
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, the other side is, it looks like, it's bad news, but it looks like this is going to be disabling for you. If you knew, so you could make adjustments and adaptations to your life ahead of time, rather than have it sort of dropped on you one day where it's like, oh, hell, I can't do X, I can't do Y.
Yeah.
So I think that's the power of tech, and science, and it's all combined together, doesn't it?
It does. I agree. And the only thing, and I'll add this in my closing, is that, one of the things I would always tell folks when I would speak to MS patients is that, we kind of owe it to ourselves as patients to try and do something for ourselves every day that puts us in a position to be successful in living with this disease. And now with technology, we all have that ability in the palm of our hands to do something, whether it's reading an article, whether it's contacting a neurologist, whether it's watching a video from a YouTube page like yours. Everybody has the ability to do something to help themselves and put themselves in that position to be successful. And
sure.
I think it's
step
really
count. I get obsessed with my step count, but it's not the tech, but the tech tells me this. But then I would say it helps me exercise more because it makes you think, oh, got to get up.
Yeah. My watch is watching me. I've got to.
Exactly. I think Garmin knows more about me. Anyway, Michael, I'm really, really flattered that you invested your time to come on today. And I'd just like to say thanks from me and anybody who watches this and gets anything from it.
I appreciate that. And thank you for having me. I find it to be incredibly valuable and great getting to know you a little bit better, Dominic.
You too. Pleasure, Michael. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye now.